Education is the pulse of a nation. In Malaysia, its evolution reflects more than curriculum changes. It reflects our nation's history, struggles, and dreams. This documentary tells that story. We will revisit the pondok schools that preserve Malay heritage, the vernacular schools that safeguarded Chinese and Indian identities, and the colonial reports that attempted to reconcile these differences. But this story is not only about policies and documents. It is about people. It is about teachers walking miles to reach rural schools, about students sitting under trees with chalk and slates, about parents fighting for the language and identities. It is about how education shaped unity in a multi-ethnic nation and how teachers became the guardians of that unity.
Before independence, Malaya's education system reflected its colonial reality. It was divided, unequal, and designed not for nation building but for administrative convenience. For the Malays, education was often limited to the pondok schools. These were small religious institutions, usually attached to mosques, where students studied Islamic law, Arabic, and the Quran. The pondok system preserved Islamic values and Malay identity. It produced respected religious leaders who guided their communities. But its focus was narrow. Students were not taught modern science, mathematics, or languages beyond Arabic and Malay. In a colonial economy that required clerks, engineers, and professionals, pondok graduates found themselves excluded. Meanwhile, immigrant communities established their own vernacular schools. The Chinese community built schools that followed curricula from China. Instructions was in Mandarin or other Chinese dialects. Emphasizing Confucian values and Chinese literature. These schools created strong cultural pride, but also maintained close ties to mainland China. While on the other hand, Indian community, particularly Tamils from rubber estates, established Tamil school. This focused on mother tongue literacy and cultural preservation, but resources were scarce and many plantation schools struggled with poor facilities and undertrained teachers. These vernacular schools gave communities identity, but they also entrenched divisions. Children grew up educated apart with little interaction across ethnic groups. To address these divisions, the British colonial government introduced several reports. The Cheeseman Report of 1946 was one of the earliest. It proposed free primary education for all children using both Malay and English as mediums of instruction. The idea was to broaden access and begin integrating communities. But the plan faced financial and political constraints. The British lacked resources after World War II, and the proposal was never fully realized. The Barnes Report of 1950 went further. It recommended a single national school system with Malay and English as the primary language of instruction. The aim was assimilation, which to merge communities into a single Malayan identity. But the report was fiercely opposed. The Chinese community feared losing their language and culture, while the Indian community felt equally marginalized. Instead of unity, the Barnes Report sparked resistance. In response, the Fenwu Report of 1951 was commissioned. It emphasized the importance of preserving Chinese language schools and respecting cultural diversity. This marked an important shift, which unity could not forced through assimilation. True integration required respecting differences. The Education Ordinance of 1952 attempted to strike a balance, and it allowed vernacular schools to continue while standardizing regulations. But divisions remained. Unity through education was still seemed far away. Still, it was a first step toward inclusivity. The turning point came with the Razak Report of 1956. It laid the foundation for Malaysia's national education system. This introduced a uniform curriculum, strengthened Malay as a national language, and created national schools open to all races. For the first time, education was seen as a tool for nation building. Tun Abdul Razak, which was the report's architect, understood that education was the bridge between independence and unity.
Merdeka! 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 Merdeka!
With independence in 1957, Malaysia inherited an education system marked by deep division. The colonial era had left behind separate streams for Malays, Chinese, and Indians, each protecting their own language and culture. The challenge for the new leaders was monumental. How could a young nation, freshly freed from colonial rule, build unity from diversity through education? Tunku Abdul Rahman and his colleagues saw education not only as a service, but as a tool for nation building. Schools were to become the meeting point where children of different backgrounds could learn together, speak a common language, and develop a shared sense of belonging. the same time, education had to address poverty, especially in rural Malay areas where literacy rates were low. Independence offered Malaysia the chance to design its own education system for its people, not for colonial administration. Education was seen as the foundation of sovereignty, a symbol that Malaysians could govern themselves, make their own policies, and plan for their future generations.
The Rahman Talib Report of 1960 was the first major step in this new era. Building on the Razak Report, it reaffirmed Malay as the main language of instruction, a move that solidified Malay's position as the national language. But beyond language, the report tackled practical needs. It emphasized vocational and technical education, recognizing that the young nation needed skilled workers in carpentry, mechanics, and agriculture. This was not accidental. Malaysia needed an economy that could sustain itself without over-reliance on imports or foreign workers. For example, vocational schools were set up in rural areas so children from farming families could gain useful skills to be used in their farm. Technical schools in town train mechanics, electricians, and artisans. These young graduates were critical for nation-building projects, building infrastructure, supporting small industries, and improving agriculture. The report also highlighted the importance of discipline and moral education. The leaders feared that without strong values, modernization might bring social unrest. By stressing moral education, the report aimed to shape responsible citizens, not just literate workers. In short, the Rahman Talib report sought to make education both a unifying force and a practical instrument for development. It demonstrated that independence meant tailoring education for Malaysian needs, not for colonial interests.
This vision of unity and practicality was formalized in Education Act of 1961. For the first time, Malaysia had a legal framework for education as a sovereign nation. This act established a national education system with Malay as its core, while still allowing Chinese and Tamil vernacular primary school to exist. This compromise reflected Malaysia's multi-ethnic reality. It acknowledged that while national unity was the ultimate goal, cultural heritage could not simply be erased. Crucially, the Act made primary education free and accessible to all. This was transformative. Rural Malay children who once had limited opportunities could now attend school without financial burden. Chinese and Indian children also benefit from this guaranteed access. Universal primary education began to raise literacy rates across the population and closing the gaps between communities. Beyond access, the Act also standardized curricula and examination, creating consistency across schools. This helped ensure that regardless of ethnicity, all the children were learning the same national subjects, sharing similar experience, and also slowly building a common identity. The Education Act of 1961 was therefore not just a law, it was a statement of Malaysia's national priorities, with unity through language, equity through access, and progress through structured learning.
In 1964, focus shifted towards the teachers themselves with the Aminuddin Baki report. Aminuddin Baki, which remembered as the father of Malaysian education, believed no system could succeed without competent and professional teachers. He argued that well-trained teachers will not only improve learning, but also embody the values Malaysia wished to pass on to its youth. The report recommended structured teacher training programs, specialized subject training, and continuous professional development. This marked a turning point. Teaching was no longer a job anyone could do, and it became a respected profession requiring preparation, ethics, and responsibility. Teacher training college were expanded, producing educators skilled not only in content but also in pedagogy. The report emphasized that teachers had to model discipline, patriotism, and innovation. Aminuddin's Baki influence can still be seen today in Malaysia's teacher training institutes, now known as Institut Pendidikan Guru. Guru. His legacy lies not just in institutions, but in the countless teachers who carry themselves with dignity and professionalism, fulfilling the ideals he championed.
By the late 1970s, Malaysia was undergoing rapid economic change. The cities were expanding, industries were growing, and social tensions were rising. The government realized that education needed to produce not only skilled workers but also disciplined and morally upright citizens. This led to the Cabinet Committee report of 1979. This report emphasized of moral education and national identity. For the first time, Pendidikan Moral and also Pendidikan Islam were made central to the curriculum. The idea was clear as crystal, which is education must build ethical character, not only cognitive ability. The report also introduced to the Curriculum Baru Sekolah Rendah (KBSR). This curriculum aimed to balance knowledge with values, skills, and co-curricular activities. Students were encouraged to participate in like scouts, sports, and also clubs and activities, fostering their teamwork and also leadership. This was a holistic approach, ensuring that the children grew up not just as learners, but also as responsible citizens. The cabinet reports emphasized on discipline also reflected Malaysia's concern for social stability. Education became a safeguard for unity and peace for the citizens.
The Cabinet Committee report made one point very clear, which was teachers were at the center of this mission. They were expected to instill discipline, nurture values, and act as moral guide. The teacher was no longer only a conveyor of knowledge for the students, but they are also a mentor shaping character. And this responsibility was immense. It required teachers to uphold high standards of conduct, balancing firmness with compassion. The report raised expectations of the teaching profession and placed moral authority firmly in the teacher's hands. In doing so, it strengthened the link between education and nationhood. Classrooms become space where the Malaysian identity was forged daily, which they actually through discipline, through respect, and through the values teachers model for the student. And through it all, one element remained constant, which is the teacher. Policies may set direction, but the teachers gave them life. Teachers turn ideals into action, which in rural schools without electricity, in urban classrooms filled with diverse students in every corner of Malaysia. This history shows why teachers' education philosophy is essential. It links the struggles of the past, the achievement of independence, and also the aspiration of the future to one vision of what it means to be a Malaysian teacher.
The falsafah pendidikan guru, or teacher education philosophy, was formulated to define the role of Malaysian teachers. It reflects the values, responsibilities, and aspirations of the profession. A teacher is more than a transmitter of knowledge. A teacher is a role model, a leader, and a nation builder. The philosophy emphasized that education must be holistic, which nurturing intellect, spirit, emotion, and body. In every classroom, the teacher embodies the philosophy and turns ideals into practice.
The first element of philosophy is noble character. Teachers are entrusted with shaping the morals of their students. They must demonstrate honesty, discipline, fairness, and also empathy. A teacher who scolds unjustly or behaves without integrity loses the trust of students. But a teacher
who is compassionate and consistent, inspires loyalty and also respect. In this way, noble character is not only abstract, it is lived daily in every interaction.
The second element is being progressive and scientific in outlook. This reflects the need for teachers to embrace innovation, technology, and new pedagogical methods. In the 21st century, students face challenges like artificial intelligence, climate change, and global citizenship. Teachers must prepare them not with rote memorization, but with critical thinking, creativity, and also adaptability. This is why continuous teacher training is essential to ensure that teachers themselves remain lifelong learners. Another core principle is commitment to national aspirations. Teachers must help realize Malaysia's goals, which is unity, peace, and prosperity. Every time students sing the national anthem, every time they participate in National Day parades, teachers are reinforcing patriotism and shared identity. This responsibility is especially important in a diverse country like Malaysia, where classrooms are microcosms of the nation itself.
The philosophy also stresses appreciation of cultural heritage. Malaysia's diversity is not a weakness, but a strength. In schools, teachers guide students to respect different traditions. Cultural festivals like Hari Raya, Chinese New Year, Deepavali, and Gawai are celebrated side by side. By teaching appreciation, teachers help preserve heritage while fostering mutual understanding. Teachers are also tasked with ensuring the development of the individual. This means nurturing students holistically, which intellectually through lessons, physically through sports, emotionally through guidance, and spiritually through moral and religious education. A student's true potential emerges only when all dimensions are cultivated. This balanced development is central to the FPG. Finally, the FPG calls for teachers to preserve unity, democracy, discipline, and progress. In the classroom, teachers create a culture of respect, responsibility, and shared decision-making. While in society, they prepare students to be democratic citizens who value freedom, justice, and equality. Education policies before and after independence were not isolated events. Each reform was a stepping stone, and together they shaped the falsafah pendidikan guru. Take the Razak Report of 1956. It emphasized a common curriculum and Malaysia as the national language to promote integration. This vision echoes the FPG principle of preserving a united society. A unity was never accidental. It was intentionally fostered through education, beginning with Razak's framework.
On the other hand,
The Rahman Talib Report of 1960 and the Education Act of 1961 emphasized vocational education, which preparing young Malaysians for nation building. This reflects the FPG's call for teachers to be progressive and scientific in outlook. By training students for technical and practical roles, teachers encourage innovation and adaptability. The spirit of scientific progress was not abstract, which it was lived in classrooms, workshops, and agricultural fields across the country.
The Aminuddin Baki Report of 1964 focused on professional teacher training. Aminuddin Baki understood that education depended on the quality of teachers. His recommendation for structured training aligned directly with the FPG's principle of teachers possessing noble character and acting as role models. A noble teacher is not born. They are formed through education, mentorship, and also a commitment to ethics. This is precisely what Aminuddin Baki envisioned.
In the late 1970s, the Cabinet Committee Report of 1979 reinforced discipline, moral education, and national identity. This connects to the FPG's ideals of preserving a disciplined society and being committed to national aspirations. The moral education syllabus, co-curricular activities, and scouting movement introduced then remain integral today. Through this, teachers not only taught subjects, but cultivated values that bind society together.
Education Act of 1996 prepared Malaysia for globalization by expanding opportunities in private and international schools, and by strengthening higher education. The Act reflected the FPG's call to preserve a progressive society. Teachers were tasked with guiding students to think globally while remaining rooted in Malaysian identity. In this way, the Act bridged tradition by modernity, much like the philosophy itself.
When viewed together, these reforms are not disconnected. They form a narrative. Colonial attempts laid the groundwork. The Razak Report gave unity. The Rahman Talib and Education Act 1961 gave structure, while the Aminuddin Baki Report elevated teachers. The Cabinet Reports gave values, and the Education Act 1996 ensured progress. All this align with the FPG, showing that philosophy is not a theory, but reflection of Malaysia's lived history.
Therefore, we can conclude that reports gave Malaysia its structure, acts gave Malaysia its law, and the FPG gave Malaysia its vision. Together, they define what it means to educate and to be educated in Malaysia. The past shaped the present. The present prepares the future.
And teachers remain at the heart of it all.
From the humble pondok schools of the kampung to the national and international schools of today, the story of Malaysian education is one of resilience. Each generation faced its own challenges, yet education remained the tool for survival, progress, and unity. In the pre-independence era, education preserved cultural identity. After independence, it built a nation. Today, it prepares Malaysia for global competition.
The teacher education philosophy reminds us that teachers are more than professionals. They are guardians of values, shapers of characters, and mentors for the future. They are entrusted not only with teaching mathematics or science, but with instilling honesty, compassion, and responsibility. A teacher remembered not just for lessons taught, but for life they have touched.
Every report and act shaped the system, but teachers gave those policies life. Without teachers, laws remain ink on paper, and with teachers, education becomes transformation. They carry the philosophy in their daily work, whether guiding a child in reading, correcting a mistake with patience, or encouraging a student to dream bigger. Teachers are the bridge between Malaysia's past sacrifice and future's aspiration.
As Malaysia enters the future, education remains the foundation of unity. Globalization, technology, and social change will bring new challenges. But with the FPG as our compass, teachers will continue to prepare generations who are united, ethical, disciplined, and progressive.
To preserve unity, to uphold democracy, to nurture discipline, and to advance progress. These are not abstract ideals, but daily responsibilities carried out in schools across the nation.
The story of Malaysian education is ultimately the story of its teachers. They are the quiet heroes working tirelessly in classrooms, whether big or small, in cities or whether remote village. They ensure that Malaysia remembers its past, lives its present, and dreams of a brighter future.
From independence to today, from policies to philosophy,
From teachers to students,
Education remains the soul of Malaysia's future.
One is the loneliest number that you'll